The first question is by Munich young leader, Nora al-Gizawi.
Thank you. I'm Nora from Syria. I came from the background of the revolution and the background of civil society. Sadly, I cannot agree with you about the summarization about our case and our issues. You say that our case is refugees, terrorism, aid, constitution, election, and ceasefire. First of all, I want to ask the panelists, where the space of ceasefire, while Asitani 1 was discussing about the ceasefire agreement, Hezbollah was putting Wadi Barada under attack, and finally they forced civilians to displace to Idlib. I'm so sorry to say that, but you mentioned Aleppo, but no one mentioned what happened in Wadi Barada, what's going on in Madaya, Zabadani, and around Damascus, and in Homs. This is the main question. Which kind of ceasefire we'll see in the future? Is displacement under the international law? Secondly, when we have to speak about humanitarian aid, why we have to provide our civilians by aid? Because we have besieged areas. More than 4 years, our civilians live under siege by Assad forces and Iranian and Hezbollah supporting him in this besiege. Is putting people under siege, forbidding them from their life, forbidding them from their rights in life to live as a human in their country, is under international law? Second, where is the accountability? Without real transition, we cannot see any kind of accountability in the future. All of you see the last report of Amnesty about 13,000 of presidents who killed under torture in Sinai. I was one of detainees in Syria. I spent 6 months of my life in jail and tortured by Assad forces. Why? Just because I'm from the revolution. I'm from the non-violence movement against our government, because we need to back our rights. We need to feel like we are citizens under this government in our country. We need our freedom, we need our dignity, we need to live under democracy. But sadly, when you are talking, Mr. de Mistura, about the transition, about Geneva II, you mentioned only 2254, but you didn't mention 2118. I understood that you are ignoring transition, political transition. You are ignoring TGP, you are ignoring the real process of political transition, which will maybe in the future give us some space of peace, of accountability, of justice, because we have more than half our people outside Syria, not because any reason, just because of Assad threat. Thanks.
Thank you for that powerful intervention. Stefan, do you want to take that on?
Yes, of course. First of all, I can imagine the level of frustration and anger, especially from a Syrian woman who has been going through a jail and torture for being actually quite moderate in her own reaction. And I can put myself very much in her place, so I am not going to say anything about that. Now, I've been 46 years now, 47 almost now, with the UN in conflict areas, in Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, Bosnia, and I never seen a war, a conflict with such a cruel environment, never. Frankly, from both sides. They are not proportional, but I've seen it from both sides. Because I've seen also horrible things taking place on the other side, but not proportional. The barrel bomb is not proportional with the mortar shelling. But, and one of the most cruel ways to handle this conflict is actually the medieval besieging area. But since I work for the UN, I'm trying to be constantly intellectually honest, and it's not easy because you get emotional, unavoidable. You mentioned Zabadani and Madaya, but you didn't mention Kefrai and Fua. These are two Shia villages which have been besieged too, and they've been receiving at the moment bombing. You didn't mention Deir ez-Zor, which is besieged by Daesh, and there are 200,000 people. We've been trying to reach them by the airdrops. In other words, what is awful is the method which has been used and is unacceptable. The proof is that we have been complaining, and we will continue complaining, in Geneva, in Astana, wherever we can, that when you have a ceasefire, the first next thing is not to then prolong a ceasefire or replicate it or substitute it with actually hunger, no medicines, and so on. Because that's another way of actually making a war. I'm counting, frankly, Konstantin, and we discussed it with our Russian and Turkish counterparts, that in Astana, once the mechanism is established, once these incidents which are taking place and which are linked to the wish of the government to encroach more in the territory by saying there are 3 in al-Nusra there are 5 in al-Nusra here, and therefore move a little bit on what is the military solution, we will start seeing genuine humanitarian access. I know that your people are being, I was in Moscow, they were talking to me actually about it. Well, we need some concrete results because the people want to see that. First thing, no more bombing. It's becoming much better in spite of it. The second thing is food and medicines. I know you agree, but we need together to see facts.
It's not just about us agreeing. We, I believe, do more than any other country now towards Syria in terms of humanitarian aid. And when Aleppo was liberated, we discovered so many humanitarian aid packages with UN marks on it, which were in the hands of the terrorists in Aleppo. I don't know how they managed to come into possession of these deliveries, but this is also the fact. And now, according to my information, when Aleppo is free, we do not see any other countries starting their humanitarian aid programs there. The discussions about people of Aleppo was at the highest while the campaign was on, but now when the situation is more or less normalized, we do not see any further humanitarian aid programs towards Aleppo. Believe me, Russia does more than any other country in that sense.
I see two